Hey there, everyone. Welcome back to the channel. This is Munir again from Aeon Metis, and this is the very first episode of our new podcast series known as the Method Room. So, what exactly is the Method Room and what are we going to use it for? So, the Method Room is basically a place where we're going to be having more in-depth conversations, and we're sort of going to break down our methodologies in respect to all the work that we do and what we see that's happening in the market in the UAE. And the reason why we've picked up the UAE is because, of course, we are based in the UAE, so it just makes sense to talk about what's happening here. So we'll talk about all the highs, the lows, and everything in between. So basically, we will break down sort of what the decisions were made during a project, what was considered, what were the trade-offs, and what was rejected, and what actually worked towards the end of that. And this is basically a place if you want to see how brands are really built when there are real stakes involved. This is where we're going to showcase everything. To be honest, like I'm quite nervous doing this because I've never done such a long form piece, and it's a bit nerve wracking. But nevertheless, let's get started. So, this being the very first episode, we're going to sort of talk about why and when you need to do a brand and a content audit. I know I've spoken about this before, sort of like just briefly. I think it was one of the earlier series that I did, the earlier videos which I did, and it was just like a 5 or 6 minute kind of thing. But today we're going to really go in depth, and we're going to see as to why any brand, whether you're small, whether you're big, whether you're starting out, you guys need to do a brand and a content audit. And I think the best way to basically do a to explain why this is important and why it's needed is to sort of like showcase it with an example. I can't mention the client names and such, and I might look away from the camera for a while when I've just put out notes here, and unfortunately my OBS is having issues, so I might just pop up some of the most important things on screen as and when they come up. So, what we're going to do is basically break down one of our recent interactions, and then hopefully there are some pointers which you might be able to take away from that. It might be of use to see how we proceed and what is the current situation of the project. So I'm just going to look at my notes, and I'm just going to see just to make sure that I don't miss out anything. Towards the end of December 2025, one of our old contacts got in touch with us, and they wanted us to sort of help them with their marketing, their socials, and their content. They are basically operating in the building material space, and they've been here for almost 10 years, and they have like two different sort of like brands which they focus on. We were more than happy to sort of jump in and see like what it was that they exactly wanted us to do for them, like where they saw like we were sort of like useful in what they planned to do with their brands. Towards the end of December 2025, one of our old connections got in touch with us, and basically they wanted our help to sort of assist them in their marketing, in their social media content generation, and their branding as well. And they work or sort of operate in the building materials and architectural solution space. And they've been here in the UAE for almost 10 years or so. So the first thing that we do when such a call comes in is basically, yes, we sort of like arrange for an online session just to get a gist of what it is they want from us. Just to get the basics, because we didn't want to go into detail at that moment, because we just wanted to get an overview of what they were expecting. And during our initial sessions itself, we did realize, yes, there's a lot of work to be done. It's not easy to sort of like just jump into a segment, because there's a lot of things that you need to do behind the scenes just to make everything work out. Now, this is where and why you basically do a brand and a content audit. So what is it that we did, and what were the steps. So I'm just going to put up like a small image on the screen just to show you sort of like the steps that we're taking on the initial stages. So one of the steps that we went through was basically we went through their website in detail. We went through their existing content. We sort of went through all their socials, whichever platform they were basically advertising on or using it to sort of promote their business. We went through that. We sort of like reviewed their brand on the whole, not just their socials, but their messaging, the tone. Where were they positioned now in the market, and were they even visible now at the moment, or were they sort of like irrelevant in the market in terms of their online presence? This is basically what we do with every single client. And we even went through their spending habits, like what is it that they spend more in terms of their marketing. Is it like the digital stuff? Is it like paid ads or digital ads or whatever? Or is it more traditional marketing that they're doing more of, and they're spending their money onto that? So maybe it's newspaper ads or maybe radio ads, or have they done anything like that? So we had to go in depth, because for us, the brand and the content audit basically gives us an idea of where the gaps are in their marketing. Because we can sit from the outside and look at them and say, oh yeah, like they want help with the content, yeah, we can do their content and basically call it a day. We'll get paid, they'll get their content, and it may or may not work. And then it's just not right. We didn't feel that it was right. So we basically sat down and we went through again during a second meeting. We actually went through a little bit more in depth, sort of like discussing like what was actually needed. And after we did the initial brand and content audit, yeah, like I was saying, we did a second meeting as well, where we went a little bit more in depth to get an idea of their spending habits and what were they actually focusing on at the current moment. Because everything else you can sort of like get it now at the moment. I mean, the website's already online. They have their socials on it. So it's just something that you can check quickly. But just to understand their tone, their messaging, and what were the spending habits, their campaign details, you have to do a little bit more in depth, because you need to know how much money that they're spending on. And after the initial session, the stuff that we found was a bit alarming. I wouldn't say alarming. It's a bit concerning. Let's just put it that way. Because if you need to move up to a segment from where you are now, there's a lot of things that you need to change. Like I said, behind the scenes, it's not just your socials that need an upgrade. Changing your socials without changing what's the underlying issues, if everything that comes there, if you don't fix that, then it's like let's say you're building something on shaky legs, and that is not something that we would advise anyone to do. But let me just sort of like clarify one thing, because this is me sort of like explaining in terms of an actual project that we're currently in discussions with. But this audit can be done for someone who's starting off, someone who's halfway through, or even for a bit established set of businesses as well. Because it's very easy when you're a bit more established to sort of lose track on what's what and where's where, in terms of like, is your brand being represented the right way? Because you have all these different entities, are you being represented the right way across all your entities? So it takes a little bit more work. And because these guys were there in the market for so long, it just makes it even more crucial that they get everything right from the offset. So the stuff that we found that was, like I said, concerning was, apart from a few ads, apart from their visibility, like them having a website, they were basically invisible online. In terms of, there was no one searching for them. they were not appearing in any of the search results. They were not sort of like active on their socials. And so there was a lot of things that we could see. There were gaps. So in order to actually move up to a segment, and it's not just being visible at the moment. It's the type of stuff that you actually sort of post on your website and on your socials. It makes a big difference as well, how you present yourself. And the way they presented themselves was sort of not up to the mark. So like I said, I know I'm saying like I said for a long time. Excuse the fact that I'm doing that, because this is the first time, and and I'm absolutely nervous. So yeah, when we went through their details, and the stuff that we saw was the website was nowhere near to being classified as luxury. There were missing links, there was incomplete data, there was no clear messaging, and it was just not clear what they wanted to do with their website. When you're building up a website, it's got to have like a clear purpose. If you're doing a showcase website, okay, you need to showcase it properly. If you're doing an e-commerce website, you need to have the sort of like the call to actions, the ease of use, the details for the products. It varies. Your website mileage varies depending upon your purpose. So in terms of what they wanted to do was to basically showcase their product range, showcase their products, showcase their expertise, and sort of like bring it up a level. And now there is one thing in terms of websites, especially when you're operating in such a space. The building materials and sort of like architectural solutions, dimensions are very, very important. So in their case, when we went and checked the product details, when we went looked at the technical specification sheets, it was not the best. Sort of like, I don't have a clear, I think I'm sort of like fumbling on the words, but yeah, it just didn't do its job, is what I wanted to say. It just didn't do its job. It just looked plain, it looked simple, there was no feeling of luxury, and it just felt bland. So there was a lot of work, again, that we had to put in just to get these things sorted out, because it starts from there. It starts from how you represent your products. Is your product based in sort of like different categories? So let's say now in terms of the website, I'll give a quick example. Now these guys, they had like different ranges. So if I went to their website now, and if I wanted to see, okay, which of their products was actually classified as luxury, there's no way I'll be able to tell them apart, but because they all look the same. How they're presented, which range has priority, and which range doesn't have that much of priority, and the type of products that were coming in each range. So there was no visual differentiation of the ranges. So that was one of the biggest things that we saw on their website, was the lack of direction, the lack of purpose, the lack of technical details, the lack of sort of let's say the visual identity was all over the place, and there were text that was repeated. So yeah, it just wasn't good. So these are the things that we did highlight to them, but the thing is, like, how do we explain this to a customer, that we can't just basically go and say like, yeah, your website is shit? And I mean, you can, we do that to some clients, but we are sort of like when we are a bit more closer to them, yes, we tell them, and they're free to tell that to us as well if they don't like the work. But now in terms of these guys, because it's someone who we initially interacted with, we just didn't want to sort of like scare them into saying like, yeah, everything is shit, we need to do the entire thing. No, we needed to actually see, we needed to actually make sure they understood where we were coming from, right? In terms of the thought process that we were putting out, and we just wanted them to understand like we have their best interests at heart. So we sort of like just started with asking them a question, and one of the questions that we sort of asked is, now suppose they hired us just to make good content, right? We do the videos, we do the photography with all the different ranges, we sort of push it like really well, and we give them like amazing results in terms of visuals. But once the visuals are in, where do you send them if a client wants to know more details about a certain product? Maybe you've showcased them on your Instagram feed, and where do you send them after that? Okay, fine. You have great visuals, you've put up a story. Where even if you put a call to action, where are you going to send them? They said the website. And we told them, well, your website is not up to speed if you want to send a person to come and look at your website, especially from your socials. So we also had a look at the socials, which I forgot to mention. And one of the biggest issues that we found out on their socials was the fact that they were basically every single post for every single month that they have been in operation, almost I think towards the second or third month they started, they just to get people through the door. Towards the last 1 year, let me clarify on that. Every single month they've posted something on their social media. They've literally put on sale, on sale, on sale. Now, the problem with that is when I see an on sale tag every single month, the first thought that comes into my mind is basically they're going out of sale. They're closing down. And that is not a good sort of thing to, perception is very important. And when people perceive that you're sort of like giving everything away in like cheap pricing, it sort of like degrades your value. And that was one of, if not the most important things that we found out on their social media profiles. And we told them like that needs to be fixed if you needed to sort of like, again, go up a level. That was very important. We had to sort of like revamp their entire visual identity in terms of their socials and their website. And the thing is, as I was saying, for your socials and for your website, if you're building that up, you need to have a clear purpose, you need to have a clear call to action. And even if you have a clear call to action, where you send the people after they click the call to action, or if you give them a forwarding link, if they end up in a page that doesn't look good, and if the information that they feel that they need from coming to your website or following up on your ad, if it's not there on your website, you've basically lost a customer. I mean, there's no better way to say it. So there's a lot of things you need to address before you think of, okay, let's just work on content and the website will sort of sort itself out. No, it doesn't happen that way. You need to actually see where the gaps are and fix the underlying issues. Because as I said many times, if you don't fix the underlying stuff, anything that you build on top of it is basically useless. Because like I said, if we created content to basically sort of push their clients onto their website, and when they go onto the website, they don't get the information and there's basically no sale, then what was the point of them wasting money with us, creating content, wasting their time, our time, and it's just a whole mess. So it's always better to go and sort of like do the audit first, just to see where exactly the fix has to be made. And from there you can sort of like figure out, okay, let's do one part, let's do the second part, then move on from there, right? And it is very painful, I know, for most clients to hear that when we sort of like call this out, saying that there's a lot of work to be done. Whatever they had now is basically, it's not useless, it's just not doing what it's supposed to be doing. After the second meeting with them, we sort of came up on a plan, and we basically sort of listed out things that needed fixing, and we sort of gave them a proposal. But we didn't want to, again, because this won't be like a brand refresh completely, because a brand refresh is expensive, and it's not something that I felt that they were interested in doing at the moment, even though it had to be done in some form or the other. So basically, in terms of what we prepared was, I'm just going to put this up on screen quickly, and I'll talk over it. And so if you look now, this is our letterhead format, and we basically send this out to most of the clients after we have our meetings. And so again, what they wanted was basically to sort of reposition themselves as a premium sanitary ware brand, with the 5-year goal of expanding to 7 showrooms across the Middle East. And from what all we've seen, we felt that there were 2 steps that needed to be taken. And one of the biggest steps is to basically create a strong, consistent brand foundation that reflects a premium identity. Because again, perception is very important. If you put up visuals in a haphazard way, it's going to affect the perception of the people who come to your socials. They'll think you're just another store who's selling cheap stuff, and that's not what we want. So that was one of the first steps that we had to take. And then the second one is build upon the social media content development and management. So that ideally brings, now we're sort of like putting a purpose to it. The content that we make is supposed to bring customers to the showroom and to build credibility. Now you can either build credibility first and then focus on pushing content that actually gets the clients to the showroom, which I think would be the best way to sort of like build your online credibility and then sort of like move from there slowly, stage by stage. I mean, you can do it parallelly, but I would just like get one thing done first and then move on to the next. And again, it differs for every single agency. This is the method which I adopt in normal cases, and it can definitely vary. And this is again why we sort of like, we explain as to why it's very important to sort of build up the brand foundation. And you can actually search for this and you'll find the same details. So this is basically taken off from Google. So around 81 to 83% of shoppers research online before visiting a store. So which means they'll visit your website first to gather more product info, to check your general presence. Are you just another store, or is there something special about you? Or do they sort of like have a little bit more details on what you are and what you're doing? And I think your website, your basically online presence gives a very good idea of what it is that you do. And without a clear brand base, even excellent social media can lead to drop-offs, because potential clients struggle to understand what makes any company premium or why they should even visit. That is one of the biggest things. Because, and let me just add this point in as well. If your website is good, if your socials are good, if the call comes in and you basically don't have a process to set up the call in such a way that you don't lose the customer, again, the customers are going to drop off. So there's a lot of things that you need to do, again, behind the scenes more to get everything right. But in terms of your presence online, yes, you start with the website. That's what I would recommend to any company that's either starting up or they are, sort of semi-established or even fully established. Get your website in perfect working order, update it yearly, and it'll save you a lot of headache down the year or in the space of your lifetime. So again, the phase 1 that we proposed was basically to establish the minimum essential brand foundation. We are not talking about like a full rebrand, because we didn't want to do that, and we knew the client was not keen on doing that as well. So just the minimum essential brand foundation that they needed, that if we are not there as well, that they can carry on forward. And I'm being absolutely realistic. there might be a case like after 6 months, they'll say, okay, guys, thanks. You guys have set it up. Now we're planning to hire in-house, which is absolutely fine. Or they say, okay, we want to try someone else. Now, when they say we want to try someone else, that is up to them, and up to you as a client as well. If you want to do that, I mean, we're absolutely okay with that. But the thing is, this foundation sort of that we built for you helps make the decisions that come after quite easier, because you have a solid foundation that's there. You have brand guidelines that are perfect. You have brand visuals that are perfect. Your voice, your messaging, your tone, everything is in line. And anything that you build on top of that, even if you give the entire pack to another agency or to your in-house team, it'll make it easier for them to follow and create content based on that. And then they can add their own spin on that. Maybe they want to add a little bit more exciting edits, which is absolutely fine. You can do whatever but the main thing is you shouldn't forget your core purpose. That is very essential. And the minute you lose focus on that purpose, it makes everything problematic. So as we go down, you're going to see like what the initial phase 1 was. So again, phase 1, the objective is build a premium identity and communication base to support the customers at every touch point. So again, when they come into the showroom, when they go online, we sort of had to visualize, okay, when you go into the showroom, what are you looking for? Is there someone to greet them? Is there your areas in the showroom, has it been clearly identified? So those are the things that you do have to check for. But again, that's all that happens behind the scenes. But we do take time to sort of help them with that as well, even though it's not something that focus on. But in terms of branding as a whole, we very much sort of look at that as well on the side and see where we can give our creative input to sort of match, so again, to upgrade the look. And I do mention it here, this is not a full rebrand. It is a base foundation that strengthens your messaging and communication, because full brand updates cost anywhere from 25,000 and above, and that's being very conservative, I believe. So the first one, it's again brand positioning and identity framework. Again, your premium positioning clarity, what the company stands for, why this company exists, that's the brand narrative and the purpose, and the value proposition. So where are you sort of pushing your value into? When you're pushing it into retail, what is it that you're focusing on? And when you're doing a project specification, what are you sort of focusing on that? Do they have where are you sort of building up your credibility in terms of both retail and project and towards their audiences? So what do you showcase when you need to build your credibility? The second one is basically, again, the messaging and communication guidelines. So again, your core branding message, your tone of voice guidelines, the key messaging for customer groups. When you have a retail walking, what do you tell them? What is sort of the messaging that they see in the showroom? When you're sending it out to contractors, designers, project clients, when you're giving your contractors, designers, and project clients, you're sending up maybe they want to see a book that's filled with tile panels and everything. So how do you showcase that to them in a way that sort of gets the client to sort of go and sort of feel these guys are serious and they know what they're doing, and they presented it in a very nice way. So it makes people take notice, and it's very important. They want to expand more showrooms into more showrooms. So we sort of have to build this story. Okay, where are you now? What are you planning to do? And where do you see yourself in that for a 5-year period and 7 showrooms? What is your idea and for your brand kind of thing? And again, a visual direction guide, and this is just like a starter version of brand mood development for your premium photography and your video content, your color combinations, what are the colors that you're using now? Do we need to add some? Do we need to remove some? and visual structure for your social feeds. How do you present yourself on social media? Is it like just haphazard? Is there a style? Is there a methodology to it? Is there something that they can follow and it builds up a story? Or is it, like I said, is it just for the sake of putting content out there? And again, your visual do's and don'ts, especially when you're building it up for a premium positioning. Do you put on sale, on sale, on sale on every ad? No, you don't. So those are the things that we do discuss with them. We tell them like, okay, don't do this. We need to do this. Don't do that. And everything else that follows. And again, the content pillars and social strategy base. So this is basically what are the type of contents that we're going to focus on, where we are going to focus it. Have we actually built out any customer behavior mapping? Is there any audience mapping that's already been done? Is it correct? Is it the right one? And again, monthly content themes for at least for 3 months. And then we come back to the website messaging and direction for the developer. Like we don't, because if we wanted to do a complete revamp of the website and it's us who's doing it, it's not something that we focus on. Yes, we do provide the service, but it's not something that we focus on. So if we do have a developer or someone who's working with them, we can do the project. It's absolutely fine, but that's not the core of our business. Our core is basically narrative building, storytelling, and building up a brand. And again, some of the stuffs that come under the website thing was clear messaging, what the customers must see, the trust building elements, the CTAs, recommendations, the higher walk-ins and everything. It's got to have a purpose. Again, CTAs, if you're putting a CTA on an ad, where are you sending the person to? That question has to be answered. If you're not sending them anywhere, it's a loss. And if you're sending them to a place where which is not set up properly, then it's an even bigger loss as well. So again, like I said, we will not build or edit the entire website. For this client, we do it, like I said, if the project calls for it, and this can be implemented by their developer who's building it. And in terms of pricing, I'm going to be completely transparent. This is the pricing that we've asked them. It's not towards the high end, and nor do I feel that it's towards the lower end, because I think it's just maybe 2 steps above the lower end and almost close to the middle. Because I am a solo agency and I work with a dedicated partner. So I know I can get the work done. I know we can get all of this done in the best way possible, because we've had a lot of good feedbacks from our recent projects. So it's not like blank words or sort of, stuffing myself up. Sorry, I don't have any other words for that. So this is basically how we price it: 70% advance and 30% before delivery. And it's a one-time fee of around 14,000 dirhams. But like I said, this is more on a conservative range, because we didn't want to scare them with, excessive pricing. And if it's something that they were not keen on, I don't think I'll lose much sleep over it if they didn't want to go ahead as well. So again, we provide everything into PDF and editable formats that they can use, makes it easier for them. In terms of the deliverables, so this is basically what it is. So messaging and tone of voice, the visual direction guide, the content development guide, and the website design guide as well. Now, when we move into the social media portion of it, so it's basically, again, we've built it up for a 3-month commitment session. And we thought that'll be the best, so that they have an idea of what it feels like to work with us in terms of content development. Now, in terms of the branding, that was a whole thing. And in terms of content development, also, we sort of give them like a 3-month commitment period. And so they can really get an idea of what it is like to work with us. And that's not the only thing. It also gives us an idea of what content is actually working or not. When we start developing the content and pushing it out, and we sort of see the results, we can sort of gauge towards the 3 months. Normally it's around, I would say around 3 to 6 months, but by 3 months you will get like a fair idea of whether your content is basically doing its stuff. And there's one thing which I feel is not right, and let me just say this: do not chase virality. Make content that people want to see and interact with and they like, and I'm sure that they will come. As someone who's doing content development on his own website and YouTube, it's been exciting to see all where people sort of like interact with, and it's been a learning phase as well. So yeah, for myself, because it changes every single time I get online. So yeah, it's been an amazing learning experience as well. So in terms of, again, for social media, these are just the basic stuff that you normally add up. And again, it goes on for 3 months. And the phase 2 for this is basically for any social media payment, or the job. We basically do a full payment upfront for each month once you sign the contract. And signing the contracts and everything, paperwork, I'll come back to that towards the end. And it's very it's important. The price sort of reflects the monthly content production, professional editing, premium video work, and ongoing management. Now, I know in most cases that people sort of like, when they look at the price and when they see, they might think, okay, we're not sure about spending this much and every month, and we're a bit worried. So I tell them, and I give this option to almost every single client that I work with. So we have an optional 1-month trial, the content only portion, and we sort of like give them a very minimum of 6 images, 2 reels, a caption set, and a content calendar for the month. So I think for that value that we have put up, it's 2,000. We sort of put a lot into it in the hopes that they realize like we can do the job that they've specified, and they feel comfortable working with us. Now, this project is still under discussion, and will I get it? Will I be able to close it? I'm hopeful. But let's say I'm putting it around 70 to 30, 70% of success and 30% of failure. And if it actually turns out into a successful closure, I will definitely be putting out the end results and the behind the scenes of what it is that we're doing, so you guys get an idea of like what happens actually on site. Because I can speak about what we think we should be doing, but when we go on site, when we start working with their stuff, that's when a lot of other things come into the light. And what we have done is basically, yes, we have gone into detail, we know this has to be done, but again, there might be surprises. There's always surprises. So it's very important that you do a brand and a content audit every single time before you start a project. And let me say this as well. It's not just when you start a company, when you're also midway through, like you can do a brand and content audit every year because it helps keep everything in check, to make sure like whatever messaging that you're putting out is consistent throughout the board, and it's always there. It always helps to be consistent across the board. And if you do it like every 6 months or like every year, it really helps sort of close the gaps very much, and it just makes life easier. When you find an issue and when you need to fix it, you know exactly what's happened, you know where exactly needs to be changed, and you can change it as and when needed. Now, in terms of building up contracts and everything, we make sure everything's signed, everything is read through, they go through signed, stamped, because we don't proceed without that, especially on such a big project as this. Now, I'm calling this a big project because like I said, I am a solo agency, and I have a partner that basically takes care of most of the other technical aspects of the projects that I take on. And they've been with me for quite a while, and I know sort of like what it is that they do, and I know I can depend on them. Because in this industry, definitely you need to be quite aware of a lot of things. So I know who I've placed my trust in, and it works well. It's been working well for the last 1.5 years, so I'm happy to stick with them for it. But in the UAE, your point of contact will be me. And if you tell me, hey, Manir, let's grab a cup of coffee, can you come and have a meeting with us? Absolutely, I'll be there. Anywhere in the UAE, Dubai, Sharjah, Abu Dhabi, Alain, Fujairah, Ras Al Khaimah, Al Quwain, doesn't matter. Any of the Emirates, I'm there. And it makes a big difference for me when I actually meet with the person. Like, even if it's just an online session that we have for the initial parts, and then we do have a detailed meeting later. When we meet them in person, it's a whole different experience, and I absolutely love it. Now, like I said, in terms of whether we are able to close this project or not, yes, I'm 70% sure we can, 30% not so sure. If they do decide not to go forward with the project, no harm, no foul. And we sort of like see, is it in the pricing? If it's in the pricing, then they were not the ideal client for us, because we've priced it quite conservatively based on what it is that the amount of effort that has to be put in to do the job. And we're more than happy to sort of negotiate and see, because we want the client to succeed even when we're not there. Because like I said, there will be a time and a place when they say, okay, Manir, thanks for working with us, but we've decided to go in-house. And like I said, it's absolutely fine. But even if they do that, or even if they work with another agency after us, maybe the scope that they wanted, it's a bit higher after 6 months. Maybe we've paved the way for them to grow even more, and that'll be the most happiest thing. Like, if they actually drop us because they want to go with a more expensive agency, I don't know how. I mean, yeah, it sounds weird when I say it, but weirder things have happened. So I'm not holding my breath. So yeah, this is basically, again, what it is that we do in the Method Room. I hope you guys liked it. You're going to be seeing these episodes like every end of the month, every single month. And I hope that each and every one of you will sort of support us throughout our journey. And I'll see you next time in the next chapter. Bye-bye.